My brother faked an emergency to ruin my international trip and dump his kids on me without warning. So I taught him a lesson he'll never forget. I, a 27-year-old female, usually work from home and frequently babysit my brother's and sister-in-law's children. They have 2 children, Noah, a 5-year-old male, and Susie, an 8-year-old female. My brother, Mike, a 33-year-old male, has a demanding job as a structural mover with a 40-hour-a-week desk job. His wife, Sandra, works as a nurse. As you can imagine, both of them frequently need someone to babysit. For some backstory, my brother and Sandra got pregnant when I was in college and living at my parents' house. They used to live with us, and I was forced to become a live-in maid of sorts. My mother, who also had a job at that time, would tell me that since I was free after my classes, the least I could do for the family was look after my brother's children. My father didn't like it, but my mother never gave me a choice. I thought I only had to look after the children for 5 hours until my parents were back home. However, as days passed, my mother continued to ask me to bathe the children, feed them, or put them to sleep, even when she was home. I didn't blame her because I understood she was tired too, but I was practically spending 6 to 8 hours looking after the children, not only for free but also at the cost of all my time. These children were young and absolute terrors. They were extremely hyperactive throughout the day and would run around, throwing toys everywhere. If they demanded something and I didn't comply, they would start smashing things around the house, and I would have to clean up after them. The thing is, I'm not maternal, and being the youngest sibling, I was also very young and had no idea how to take care of children, especially ones who would run around screaming and throw tantrums if their demands weren't met. I protested several times to my brother, but he would tell me that I was always at home and had nothing better to do anyway. This started to affect my studies, as I was too tired to complete my assignments after putting the children to bed. One evening, I had a very important assignment to submit, but Noah and Susie wouldn't leave me alone. They would mess with my books or laptop if I took my attention away from them. I requested several times to have 1 hour alone, even putting on their favorite children's show to distract them, but Noah started throwing things at my face, like the remote or the pillows on the couch. This would make Susie giggle, encouraging Noah to continue this behavior. I firmly told him no, put whatever he threw out of his reach, and tried to gently explain that we don't throw things. However, Noah continued until he threw his drinking mug at my laptop, spilling water all over it and rendering it useless. I couldn't believe the extent of the chaos that unfolded in a matter of seconds. Frustration and exhaustion reached their peak, and I found myself on the verge of tears. This wasn't just a mere inconvenience anymore, it was affecting my academic life and personal belongings. Desperate to salvage my assignment and maintain my sanity, I took a deep breath, gathered them around, and tried to explain as calmly as possible how important my studies were and the consequences of their actions. Noah remained defiant, continuing to throw things at my face. I felt beyond frustrated and experienced a mix of anger and helplessness. I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands and told Noah he was on a timeout. I switched off the TV and asked him to sit in a corner facing the wall. Noah's eyes widened, and he started to cry, but I didn't listen and put him on the chair. Susie, seeing this, immediately quieted down. When my brother found out, he absolutely lost his mind over me putting his son in timeout for misbehaving. He started yelling that I am not their parent, so I don't have the right to punish his children. I sternly explained the situation, emphasizing the toll it was taking on my academic responsibilities and the irreparable damage done to my laptop. I told him I needed to get my laptop repaired because of his children, so he needed to pay for the damages. My brother started yelling that I was being extremely selfish and that children will be children, so I should not blame them or him. He said I should have known better than to use my laptop in front of them. I told him I was forced to look after his children, which was affecting my studies, so I had no choice but to complete my assignments while babysitting, as no one else was willing to help. My brother yelled that we were family, and this wasn't a big deal since they were my niece and nephew. He continued to berate me, saying that if I punished his children, they wouldn't like me. I told him that was fine, as I didn't need them to like me, I needed them to respect me if they were ever in my care. This made him angry, and he said I was living at my parents' house for free and, other than college, had no life anyway, so I shouldn't complain about looking after his children. He firmly told me I wasn't allowed to punish them. I retorted that I was done with him and his children. My brother was shocked hearing my response and tried to backtrack, but I told him that if he wanted me to look after his children starting the next day, he would have to either pay me or find an alternate arrangement. I continued, saying my services would no longer be available, and he was free to find someone else since he clearly wanted a pushover doormat for his children to walk all over, which wasn't going to be me. Later that night, my brother must have told the rest of the family, and my mother barged into my room, demanding I apologize to my brother and his children. She insisted that, as a sister, I should be supportive and help my brother without expecting anything in return. However, I wasn't about to back down. I calmly explained that while I loved my brother and his family, my time and efforts were valuable, and I deserved fair compensation for the unexpected babysitting responsibilities. As the tension escalated, my father intervened, rushing to my defense. He reminded my mother that I had a right to be compensated for my time and effort, pointing out that babysitting wasn't a small favor but a significant commitment that warranted acknowledgement. The argument between my parents escalated, with raised voices echoing through the house. My sister-in-law finally stepped in, acknowledging the validity of my point and offering to start paying me the next day. She wanted to settle on $50, but I refused, saying that was too cheap for looking after their children for 8 to 9 hours every day. My insistence surprised them, and they questioned the amount I was asking for. Undeterred, I demanded $80 per day, a figure that reflected the time, effort, and stress involved in taking care of the children. My brother yelled that I was being greedy, but I replied that he could try finding someone else then. They begrudgingly agreed. I also demanded they help pay for my laptop, which their little minion had destroyed, and my sister-in-law agreed, although my mother continued to express her disapproval. A compromise was reached, and the following day marked the beginning of a new arrangement. I was compensated for my babysitting duties. This arrangement continued until I moved out of my parents' house. At first, my brother continued to insist I should keep looking after the children, but he quickly realized it was impossible for me, as I stayed at the office for long hours and wasn't home until late in the evening. He had no choice but to find another solution. I was never troubled again about looking after his children, except on rare occasions, which I was okay with because, at the end of the day, I did love my nephew and niece. Last year, I started working from home permanently, as I got a very nice job with the option to switch to remote work. I absolutely love my job, as it pays well, and I can afford to live in an affluent neighborhood. When my brother found out, he reverted to his old ways, finding excuses every day to leave the children with me. It's important to note that I wasn't asking him for money, nor did he offer any, as I thought this would only happen for a short time. Surprisingly, my brother wasn't thrilled about this and went to great lengths to avoid confronting me. He resorted to leaving his children on my doorstep in the morning, only calling after he had safely retreated to his car, leaving me no option but to bring the children inside. In my attempts to reason with someone in the family, I spoke with my sister-in-law multiple times about the situation. However, she insisted I should be more understanding and help him out since he had been recently promoted and was spread thin. I didn't mind looking after my brother's children once or twice a week, but taking care of them regularly was affecting my job. I realized he wasn't going to change until I taught him a lesson. The next time he left his children at my door and called to inform me, I lied, claiming I wasn't home. I threatened to call the police and CPS on him for abandoning his children on my doorstep. He started yelling that I should come back home wherever I was, but I told him if he didn't turn his car around and pick up his children, he would be answering to the police next time. This made my brother speed back and take his children. Later, my mother and sister-in-law called to tell me that my brother had to miss work because he couldn't find an alternate option, and his boss shouted at him for it. My mother blamed me, saying I was working from home, so if my brother needed help, it was my family duty to do so. I retorted that if she wanted to play this game, she should look after his children since she was retired and stayed home all day. This seemed to shut her up. My sister-in-law said she was ready to stop paying me like old times, but I told her this time she would have to pay $1,100 instead. We bickered, but ultimately she agreed. Since then, I have only looked after his children after my brother pays me up front. It has been several months now, and the children love spending time with me. A few days ago, my brother asked if I could babysit his children for the upcoming holidays, as he and his wife were planning a trip with friends. Usually, I would agree, but I already had plans to go to Mexico with my boyfriend and friends. I told him I couldn't do it and that he should ask our parents. Hearing this, my brother got upset, saying I was young and could look after the children by myself, but our parents are old and wouldn't be able to keep up with his hyperactive children. This is essentially true, as my mother has arthritis, and my father has a back problem. I told him he should try contacting his friends for help. He got upset and started telling me how he and his wife really needed a break, and I could always take a break later. I told him this was my first international trip, and I was not going to postpone it for his children. I said I wasn't canceling my plans, as I needed a break from work. He blew up, yelling that I shouldn't even be tired because I just sit at home all day and don't have children of my own. At this point, I hung up after telling him no once again. Last weekend, I embarked on my trip to Mexico with my boyfriend and friends. We were having an amazing time, and I was letting loose after working hard the entire year. This vacation was well deserved. On my third day, I woke up to 8 missed calls from my brother. Getting worried and concerned for him, I called him back immediately. He picked up, sounding panicked, claiming Susie wasn't doing well and was having trouble breathing. He said she was admitted to the hospital, and it was a family emergency. Since Susie suffers from asthma, I panicked, and my brain stopped functioning. My boyfriend sat up, seeing my reaction. My brother told me I needed to come back home and be there for Susie. Feeling stressed and anxious, I tried to get more information about what was going on with Susie, but my brother was dodgy and didn't give clear details. With my mind all over the place, torn between family and my plans, I hung up. My boyfriend and friends were supportive, suggesting we all go back home, but I didn't want to ruin their trip. Worried, I rearranged my plans, booked the earliest flight back, and rushed home, expecting the worst. Throughout the flight, I tried calling my parents, but they didn't pick up. It was early morning for them, so I figured they might be sleeping. I asked my brother to pick me up from the airport, and he agreed. Upon my return, I found my brother waiting, looking sheepish and nervous. I asked him to drive me straight to the hospital to see Susie and be there for her. He hesitated before admitting there was no emergency. Instead, he dropped the bombshell that he and his wife were going on their trip with friends, as he had told me before, and he needed me to babysit their children. I demanded an explanation, my voice edged with frustration and disappointment. He stammered, trying to justify his actions by saying he thought I wouldn't come back if he told me the real reason. His feeble excuse only fueled my anger. I felt betrayed and used. My concern for Susie turned into resentment for my brother's manipulative tactics. At that moment, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to let this slide. I decided it was time to teach my brother a lesson he would never forget. No more playing games, no more falling for his tricks. I needed him to understand the gravity of his actions, the emotional toll it took on me, and the strain it put on my life. As we drove to his house, a fire burned within me. When we got there, my sister-in-law was outside with luggage, looking sheepish. I instantly knew she was part of the plan to trick me into coming back. She hugged me, apologized, and said there was money on the nightstand. Before I could say much, my brother and his wife took off to pick up their friends for their trip. Standing there, trying to cool off, I couldn't believe their nerve. I was angry at their attempts to manipulate me and downplay the whole thing. Little did my brother know, he was setting himself up for the shock of a lifetime. I was going to take my ultimate revenge and ensure they would never dare leave me with their children again. As I stepped inside, I tossed responsibility out the window. When Noah and Susie woke up, I told them that for the next 3 days, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted in the house. Noah asked with excitement if he could have ice cream in his bed, and I told him, why not? He rejoiced, while Susie asked if she could use her mother's expensive makeup to play dress up, as her mother had asked her not to touch it. I told her she was free to use whatever she wanted. When my parents called back, I told them what happened. They had no idea and were shocked that my brother had gone to such lengths to force me to babysit. I told them I had a plan to teach him a lesson by letting the children do whatever they wanted at home. My mother immediately said this was a bad idea and I shouldn't do it, but my father, clearly angry with my brother, encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to teach him a lesson. I assured them I would only allow harmless activities and never put the children in danger. As you can imagine, the children went crazy, and the chaos continued for 3 days. Noah, fueled by excitement, attempted to turn the living room into his personal soccer field. His kicks sent objects flying, and the sound of breaking echoed through the house. Meanwhile, Susie and I tried our hands at baking. For 3 days, I felt like a child among them, letting them do whatever they wanted. I watched with a mix of amusement and satisfaction every time they did something they would otherwise never be allowed to do. Clearly, they were having the time of their lives, while the once orderly and clean house was turned upside down. This was my revenge, and it was sweet. I made sure to capture moments of their masterpieces on camera, knowing these images would be a lasting memory for my brother and sister-in-law. The day they returned, they were shocked to see what had happened to the house. Their expressions went from shock to disbelief as they surveyed the aftermath. The once neat home had transformed into a realm of creative disorder. My brother and his wife went ballistic, shouting and demanding an explanation for the chaos. What the hell happened here? Why is everything in shambles? They asked. Oh, hey there, just a little redecorating courtesy of Noah and Susie, I replied. Redecorating? Are you out of your mind? We trusted you to take care of them, not turn our home into a disaster zone. This is unacceptable. Look at the mess, and what did you let Susie do with my makeup? My sister-in-law exclaimed. Oh, Susie wanted to use them. She's got quite the talent with makeup, don't you think? I responded, stop playing games. This is not what we agreed upon, my brother said. Exactly, we didn't agree on anything because you left me standing in your driveway after forcing me to take care of your children, I retorted. My brother's face turned several shades of red, and he began shouting louder, saying I was unbelievable and that they trusted me to look after their children. I scoffed and told him trust goes both ways, and they tricked me into cutting my trip short so they could selfishly go on theirs. I firmly told him the mess could be cleaned up, and he should take this as a lesson to never mess with me again. My sister-in-law demanded I repay her money, as I had destroyed the house. I told her I took care of the children for 3 days, and her $150 was the least she could give me for it. I said I wasn't going to let them push me around anymore. My brother started to say something, but I stopped him and seized the moment to deliver my ultimatum. You know what? This is the last time you'll ever see me. I'm done being manipulated, taken for granted, and treated like a doormat. The next time you try to dump your children on me, I'll involve the police and get a restraining order. Consider this the end. Their faces froze, registering the gravity of my words. I turned around, gathered my bags, and walked out, leaving behind a house in disarray and a family stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Since then, my brother has been calling, complaining about how he and his wife are stuck cleaning the house and how the least I could do was apologize for being a brat. He's blaming me for everything and continues to say he didn't do anything wrong by calling me back from my trip. My mother reached out a few hours later, as I expected. She demanded I call my brother and sister-in-law and apologize for being harsh. She said she knew this would happen, which is why she tried to discourage me. She told me the only way to fix things was to give back the $150 along with an apology. I was floored hearing her support my brother again when he was clearly at fault. I wanted to cry when she continued to berate me without considering my feelings. I cut the call short and haven't picked up her calls since. I talked with my boyfriend about this, and he believes I need to take a break from my family for a while to sort out my feelings. I think he's right, and I plan on taking a break from everyone. My sister-in-law reached out a few days after the chaotic incident with an apology. In a subdued tone, she admitted her mistakes and expressed genuine remorse. She acknowledged she shouldn't have let her excitement for the trip cloud her judgment, allowing my brother to manipulate and lie to me. She realized the unfairness of taking me for granted and letting her desires blind her to the consequences. Understanding the gravity of the situation, she offered a sincere apology, recognizing the impact of their actions. She then pleaded with me not to punish the children for their mistakes, emphasizing that they love spending time with me and hoping I would reconsider babysitting in the future. However, I remained firm. I assured her I wouldn't babysit the children again, reiterating my unwavering stance. Despite her hesitation, I decisively rejected the idea, refusing to be swayed by manipulation or guilt trips. I stood firm on the boundaries I had set. I told her that while I appreciated her apology, actions speak louder than words, so she and my brother shouldn't depend on me for babysitting duties in the future. The call concluded with mixed emotions, but I was glad she apologized. Things have improved a bit since my sister-in-law apologized. My brother kind of said sorry too, but it wasn't heartfelt. My father had a serious talk with him and scolded him for messing with me. I haven't responded to his apology yet. On a brighter note, my boyfriend surprised me with a spontaneous trip to make up for cutting my last trip short. We took a road trip to the countryside, and it was exactly what I needed. The scenic views and peaceful atmosphere helped me unwind from the chaos of the past month. It felt like a breath of fresh air, a much-needed break from the drama. During the trip, my boyfriend and I explored and enjoyed local cuisine. The laughter and shared moments created new memories, overshadowing the recent family drama. I can't help but feel grateful for the thoughtful gesture. It wasn't just about the trip, it was a symbol of understanding and support. It made me realize that even amid family issues, there are people in my life who genuinely care about my well-being. I still have my brother's half-hearted apology lingering in the back of my mind, but for now, I'm choosing to focus on the positive moments and the kindness that surrounds me.